Hello po, ako po si Mai and welcome to Tagalog Beyond Basics. This is lesson 3, our final lesson for in-HIN verbs. In this lesson, we will just focus on the HIN verbs, the variant of the in verb. Here are our objectives for today. Narito ang ating mga layunin sa araw na ito. By the end of this lesson, you will be able to identify the verbs that use HIN formation pattern, especially those whose roots end with no glottal stop. And you will be able to understand when and why HIN replaces IN and recognize that HIN appears only in the infinitive, imperative, and future forms. And we will be able to use HIN verbs correctly by forming infinitive, imperative, present, past, and future tenses with confidence. In and HIN are object-focused verb affixes. That means the object, the thing being acted on, or the receiver of the action is the star of the sentence. Now, let's move on to our third formation pattern, which uses HIN verbs. These are special because HIN may replace in certain verbs depending on the context and the natural sound of the word. You'll notice that some roots simply sound more natural with HIN instead of in, especially in the infinitive, imperative, and the future forms. Let's take a closer look at how this pattern works. We use HIN when the verb root ends with a smooth vowel sound, meaning there is no glottal catch or glottal stop at the end. The sound flows more smoothly, and Tagalog tends to choose the form that feels easiest and most natural to pronounce. So what is a glottal catch or what is a glottal stop? It is the tiny catch for break in the throat, just like the sound in the middle of the English expression, uh-oh. It's a quick closing of the vocal cords that creates a brief pause in the airflow. So that's glottal stop. So here's a comparison of verb formation between HIN and IN using words that are spelled the same but differ in pronunciation. One has a glottal stop and the other one does not. This difference in pronunciation changes the meaning of the root and determines whether we use HIN or IN. For our first example, there is no glottal stop, therefore we are using HIN. Basa, read. Basahin, to read. There's a smooth vowel ending, no catch in the throat. For our second example, we are using IN because it has a glottal stop. Basa, wet. Basain, to wet. So it ends with a glottal stop like the break in uh-oh. So this comparison also shows learners that sound, not spelling, determines whether we use HIN or IN. For new Tagalog learners, the use of HIN can feel tricky. To choose correctly, you need to hear how the root ends. So mastering the pronunciation of root verbs will help you understand when to use HIN and IN. Now take a look at this table. You see that HIN appears only in 3 forms: the infinitive and imperative forms and the future tense. These are the only forms where the HIN stays at the end of the verb for the root verbs that has no glottal stop. Now the past tense and the present tense always return to the IN pattern. So even if the infinitive and imperative form and the future tense uses HIN, the past and present forms switch back to IN at the front. Here is our formation pattern for our infinitive and imperative forms using HIN. Root verb plus HIN. For infinitive form, basahin, to read. For our imperative form, basahin mo, read it. For the future tense, we duplicate the first syllable, add the root, and then attach hin at the end. So we get babasahin. We'll read. And we're done. So here's a quick recap to help everything settle in. First, both in and hin are object-focused pattern. Second, in is the default pattern used by most verbs. Third, hin is the variant pattern, so it is used when the root ends with no glottal stop. Fourth, hin appears only in three forms: the infinitive and imperative forms and the future tense. And fifth, past and present always return to the in pattern, even if the infinitive, imperative forms, and the future tense uses hin. Before I end this lesson, I truly hope this helped you understand the in and HIN patterns a little better. I know that verb conjugation is the most challenging part of learning Tagalog, but once you understand the patterns and you get used to the sound of the root verbs, everything becomes much easier. Just keep practicing. Mag-practice lang po kayo. Kaya mo yan. Keep listening. Keep familiarizing yourself with the rhythm of the Tagalog language. Magkita-kita po ulit tayo sa susunod ha. Paalam. Ingat po.